In this video, I'm going to be talking about something that I noticed in Ruin and Help Wanted 2 that I haven't really seen anybody in the community talking much about. And if what I found is intentional on the part of Steel Wool, it helps us to recontextualize not only everything we know about Ruin and Help Wanted 2, but also might help us look back as far as FNAF 2. Hello and welcome, my name's Antioch, and this is my first ever theorizing video. By no means am I new to the Five Nights at Freddy's community, but to the best of my knowledge, I was never the first person to come up with something new or find some groundbreaking piece of evidence, so I never had the need to make a video before now. As you can tell, I don't have the greatest setup or equipment or anything like that, but I thought that this was important enough to make a video about. So in this video, we're going to be diving into what it is I found in Ruin and Help Wanted 2 and see what it means for the franchise. If you're not familiar with the story of Ruin or Help Wanted 2, my first question is, why am I the first video you're watching about this? But I will do a quick summary. In Ruin, we play as a young girl named Cassie, who goes back to the Mega Pizzaplex in an attempt to find her friend Gregory, who she assumes she's been called there by. By the end of the game, we find out that it isn't Gregory who's been calling us this entire time, but instead the Mimic attempting to use us to escape. At the beginning of the game, we're given a mask that helps integrate us into the Vanny network. What this mask does is it helps us to pass through objects in VR that aren't actually there, or that don't appear to be there. Other things it does is it makes everything have this purplish tint. It lets us see through certain walls, or see things that aren't there as if they were there. Now keep in mind that purplish tint because it will be important here in a minute. If you haven't watched or seen anyone play Help Wanted 2 yet, I'll explain a little bit of what's going on there as well. Basically, we play a bunch of mini games, but halfway through the game, it's revealed to us that we're actually wearing a Vanny mask, implying that we are also in that Vanny network. In Help Wanted 2, better not. My cat almost knocked the camera over. You better not. No. Bad cat. In Help Wanted 2, it's commonly believed we play as one of three characters. And for reasons that will become clear here in a minute, I'm pretty certain that we play as Cassie's dad in this game. People like Rytoast have already talked about things like how the Carney refers to you as if you're a parent and speaks to you definitely as if you're an adult. And other things in the game imply that you are an adult male. But the thing that really sealed it for me was in the secret ending in the Princess Quest. When you light all the gravestones in the correct order, you're given a Bonnie mask. When you receive this mask, your character says something along the lines of, "It looks familiar." If you're familiar with any of the recent game theories, you may be aware of the theory going around the community that the Bonnie bro from FNAF 4 grows up to become Cassie's dad. But what I found helps this become not so much just a convenient explanation, but I actually think the intentional backstory that Steel Wool put in the game on purpose. Steel Wool was very particular about how things looked when using the Vanny mask in Ruined. For example, like I mentioned earlier, some things were different colors, some things didn't even exist in the network. And I think at the time, we all weren't paying close enough attention to exactly the storytelling that Steel Wool was putting into the environment. One example that the whole community definitely noticed was in Blast when you're running away from Freddy and then you put the mask on, we noticed that he isn't even there anymore, as if he doesn't exist. This was something that the community latched onto and was a clear way of telling us that Steel Wool was very intentional with their environmental storytelling, especially when it came to the Vanny network. But while we were also busy paying attention to the animatronics in the network, or even the endos in the network, I don't think any of us took the time to look at the staff bots, in particularly the mask bot. And that's what I found. What got me started thinking about this was the ending in Help Wanted 2, which I'm referring to as ending. Whenever you collect all the secret action figures, at the very end you reboot as a staff bot. And some people are thinking this is just storytelling, letting us see that, but not actually implying that we became that staff bot. But I believe that Steel Wool was actually trying to draw our attention to this scene, making us go back and look at it in Ruin again. And that is definitely what they were trying to do. In Ruined, when we first get the mask and we put it on, we're looking directly at the staff bot. Then Helpy starts to talk to us and all this other stuff goes on. So maybe we didn't notice it. But the staff bot is purple and see-through. And it looks like it has something in its head. Almost like a brain, but it doesn't look like a whole brain. It's kind of like part of a brain? I'm not really sure. At the time, we all just kind of ignored it. The reason I think that this detail is important is that no matter what other staff bots you look at in the game, none of them are this pass-through purple. Now, some of them may have articles of clothing that are this shade of purple, or might be holding something that is this shade of purple, but none of the other staff bots that we can look at in the Vanny network are pass-through purple, the same way the mask bot is. And for those of you who are like, the endos are also purple, I'm not talking about the endos, I'm only talking about the staff bots because Steelwool drew our attention to the staff bots in Help Wanted 2, so I'm not talking about the endos. Like I already mentioned, a good percentage of the community believes that the Bonnie Bro grows up to become Cassie's dad. But I think that Steelwool is actually helping us push further his character. What do I mean by that? In Help Wanted 2, not only does the Bonnie mask look familiar, but when you collect all the little plushies that help you get the true ending in Princess Quest, the very first one you get gives you an achievement called Remember Jeremy. This has led a lot of the community into a lot of confusion because what is this, like the 6th time we're using that term, Jeremy, that name? Why are we using that name again if seemingly none of the Jeremys in the franchise thus far are connected? Wait, what if they all are connected? If the Bonnie Bro was Cassie's dad, he would have also been a friend of Michael's. And Michael, who's represented by the Foxy mask, is the only other mask we get in Ruin. This has already been touched on by a lot of FNAF theorists. But now, is the Bonnie Bro Jeremy Fitzgerald? Yes, Jeremy Fitzgerald from FNAF 2, the night guard we play as for most of the nights. The one that most of the community up until this point has theorized became
At the bite of 87?
At the time, it seemed like just a convenient explanation. Well, he was the night guard. He got moved to day shift, and it would make sense that the only other adult character we had heard of up until that point would be the Bite of 87 victim. But at the time, it was just convenient. Now, I think Steelwool and Scott are trying to give us evidence that that's the case. In FNAF 1's phone call, we learn that the Bite of 87 victim survived, but we learn that they survived without their frontal lobe. Now, what did I mention about that mask bot that we saw at the beginning of Ruined? It looks like it has a brain in its head, but not a full brain. It looks partial, incomplete. Perhaps like someone who had their frontal lobe bitten off? So, the story the way I see it is, after failing getting the bad ending in Help Wanted 2, we as Cassie's dad are forced into the mask bot. We become the mask bot and are forced to relive a nightmare, giving our own daughter the Vanny mask, the very mask we know that will make her succumb to Glitchtrap, the Mimic, whatever you believe it is. We have doomed our own daughter. But even if it isn't exactly that way, and that isn't Steelwool exactly telling us that Bonnie Bro, Cassie's dad, and Jeremy Fitzgerald are all the same person, I still did think it was important to call out the fact that the mask bot is the only bot in the entire game that is this pass-through purple. All the rest of them don't look that much different in the Vanny network. Something is special about the mask bot. And a quick little side note, I wasn't sure how it really fit into the overall theory that I was crafting, but something I did notice. In Ruin, immediately after we get the mask and the mask bot deactivates, it shuts down. But it rambles off some kind of code, some mechanical sounds. I don't know what it's saying, and there's no subtitles for what it's saying.
Excuse me. Can you repeat that?
But maybe this is Cassie's dad, making one final attempt to try to save his daughter from the fate he knows he sent her down the path. This could be very similar to how in Security Breach, when Glamrock Freddy sees Gregory for the first time, he shuts down, his systems overwhelm, and he's forced to reboot in safe mode. Could this be the same thing happening where Cassie's dad is trying to get through, but the animatronics programming overwhelms, takes over, and forces a reboot? I don't know, but it seemed like it maybe fit, maybe didn't. I thought I'd put it in here at the end of the video. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Again, this is definitely intentional on some part of Steelwool because it is a very unique feature from Ruin. But maybe my theory isn't 100% right. If you have your own thoughts or ideas, please leave them in the comments down below. Like I said, this is my first time ever doing a video like this, so any form of interaction or theorizing on your guys' part would be greatly appreciated. And I mentioned you at the start of the video, but Rytoast, if you happen to see this video and watch it all the way to the end, which you would have had to have seen this part, feel free to reach out. I'd love to maybe be on the podcast or discuss some other FNAF things with you. But either which way, appreciate you guys all for watching, and maybe we'll see you in a future video.